Hi, I'm Alexa and welcome to my channel, Sandals and Steel Toes. In this video, we are gonna taste test 22 amazing tomato varieties. So my homestead is located in Northeast Ohio, Zone 6A, and this is our 2022 garden. So it's only fitting that for 2022, we are growing 22 different tomato varieties. I have your classic beefsteak tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, paste tomatoes, and they're all different colors. Reds, purples, yellow, orange, green. A little backstory about me is that when I was a child, I hated tomatoes. I stayed away from them at all costs. I wouldn't eat them. I would only have like ketchup or tomato sauce. A cooked down tomato was fine, but anything that resembled a tomato itself, I wouldn't touch it. As I got older into adult and I had my own kids and really started to eat more vegetables, because you know that's sometimes the adult thing to do. We want to be healthy, we want to nourish our bodies. Well, I realized I had to get over this irrational fear of tomatoes, and I was probably in my mid-20s when I actually started to try eating tomatoes, and I didn't like them. They most of the time tasted terrible, and the tomatoes I were getting were from the grocery store or from restaurants or on a salad or something, and most of the time the tomatoes didn't taste like anything. They were just watered down, kind of like with a white color, and they didn't taste good. But I tried, I persevered. I would eat them on salads, I would eat on burgers every now and then, and over time, like, I got more used to the idea of eating tomatoes. I got used to the flavor a little bit more, although I still just didn't love them, and I couldn't just do this. I would never do that and like, oh, this is amazing, I want to have more of this tomato. So how did I overcome this aversion to tomatoes? Well, I started growing them myself. I had my very first garden in 2015. It was on a very, very small single garden bed. I don't know, it's probably like a 4x8 size. And I started growing food that year, mostly things like some cucumbers and lettuce and kale, but I did have a couple tomato plants. And that was the first year that I ever grew my own tomato and ate it. And I was so proud of that thing. Like, to have grown a tomato and then been able to eat it and be like, wow, this actually tastes good. It was kind of eye-opening. So then the next year in 2016 is when my husband and I bought the property that we live on now, where we have our homestead, where we're raising our family. And that year, my mom helped me grow a big garden. I had never grown such a big garden before, and we grew more tomatoes. And over the years, just starting to grow my own tomatoes, growing my own food, it just kind of alighted the spark in me, and to realize, like, all these years where I've been eating tomatoes and other vegetables that just tasted like garbage, they just tasted terrible, I had no desire to have them at all. A lot of that kind of, that perception changed because I was growing my own food. I was proud of it. I didn't want the food that I grew go to waste, so I was like, we're gonna eat this. And it just tasted so much better. Kind of fast forwarding a little bit, in 2020, during the pandemic, I was out of work for a couple months, and that was when gardening season had been starting. And I grew the biggest garden I've ever grown. I made it beautiful. That's when I started capturing all of my work on YouTube. And if you go back to my first videos, that was like this beginning of the homestead lifestyle. I had been doing it for years leading up to it in like smaller scale, and I didn't even know it. I didn't even know like homesteading was a term that people used for, you know, holistic life, for a life that kind of goes back to what our ancestors, our grandparents and great-grandparents did. I didn't know that was like a thing. And I often think like, man, I could have like made something of myself back in 2015 before homesteading became like oversaturated on social media like it is now. But it doesn't matter. I credit all that time that I was kind of trying things out and learning and just understanding like, wow, there's something different about growing my own tomato than what I'm having out in society. So it was really exciting to just kind of see how that journey has evolved over time into where we're at now in 2022. Third year on YouTube. Last year I did a 4-part tomato taste test series. So I really wanted to expand my palette in tomatoes and my expertise. So I grew 40 different varieties last year, and I tried all of them and reviewed each one of them on that video series. So go and check that out. It's a lot of great information. It's going to help you plan for your future gardens, and you can kind of see the tomatoes and get an idea if that's something that you would want to grow. But in this video, I've got 22 varieties, so I scaled it down a little bit. I am growing some of my favorites that I have done in the past, but also trying some new ones. So this video has been shot over the course of a couple different days. Tomato ripening season begins in mid-August, and now we're at the beginning of September, so I have to kind of film things as they ripen and come in. I've gone over all of these tomatoes, so it's so good. If you would have told my child self that I would be in my beautiful garden just nomming on a fresh tomato, I'd be like, you're crazy, I would never do that. I hope you enjoy this year's tomato taste test series. Please leave comments on what your favorites are. Is there anything on this video that you have tried? What do you think of it? Is there anything that you're like, you need to try this next year? I am open to all suggestions and would love to expand my tomato profile and really just hone in on growing things that taste amazing, so much full of flavor. We got a storm brewing, and just, you know, everything that I've missed for so many years because I was afraid to eat tomatoes. And if you do enjoy this video, please press the like button and subscribe to my channel. I am really working hard at growing my audience on social media. I work really hard on creating my content and like to produce, you know, high quality videos with a lot of information and inspiration for gardeners of all skill levels. And if you can help me grow, that would be amazing. A lot of my videos seem to get buried in the algorithms of YouTube, and I need your help to get that out there so other people can enjoy it too. So enjoy the taste test. Hungarian Heart. This one grew a little nosy on top. I'm just gonna actually pull that off because it's starting to get yucky. And this is my second year with the Hungarian Heart. I'm not entirely thrilled with the production of the plant. It just doesn't produce a lot of fruits. It didn't really last year either, but I really like the flavor of the Hungarian Heart. And I liked, now it's an ox heart tomato. It's a little bit different than a paste tomato, but it grew really big last year, and there wasn't a whole lot of water content in the Hungarian Hearts I grew in 2021. So I wanted to grow them again for the purpose of using for paste and sauce making and all that. And this one seems to have a little bit more water content, but you know, not a whole lot. I'm really happy. It's very pretty. Ooh, it's a little slippery. And let's see if it still tastes good. That tastes good. And so biting into this reminds me, because I liked it, because it was more meaty. It wasn't very as juicy as some of like the other beefsteak kind of tomatoes are. This ox heart tomato has a lot more flavor than like a Roma would. So it was meaty and it had more flavor. It's nice and rich in flavor. It's sweet, pretty low in water content, really nice tomato taste and texture. If this plant produced more fruits, I would love to have this for cooking. However, my second year growing this, and the plants are just not very productive. So I don't know that I'll grow this again. For flavor alone, yes. If you don't need a lot of tomatoes, then a Hungarian Heart is a really great flavor tomato. But if you need a lot of tomatoes for whatever you're doing, this isn't going to give it to you, at least not in my experience. But it tastes nice. Powers Paste Tomato. So this is the Powers tomato. It's a paste variety, a yellow paste variety. And when I purchased the seeds from MI Gardener in 2021, it was called Chernobyl. So in previous videos, you may have heard me mention the Chernobyl tomato. That's what this is. At some point, the name has changed over the last year and it's being called Powers now. And this is a Virginia heirloom tomato. It's supposed to be sweet and slightly tangy. This is the first year that I'm growing this. When it's ripe, it'll be nice and yellow, almost orange, and it kind of gets some, you know, darker orange areas here. Let's try the Power. I put a spell on you. Get a slice, time to taste something nice. Yeah, so it has some tang to it. It is slightly sweet. It does have kind of like a tanginess to it. It's really nice summer tomato. I would really like this on a salad. Low acid. It's not got a whole lot of juice to it. I mean, there is some, more than some paste tomatoes. I wouldn't really use this in sauce making unless there's some kind of like yellow sauce. Overall, I like it. And the production has been pretty good on the plant. I think I would grow it again if I found a purpose for yellow paste tomatoes. As much as I do like tomatoes, I grow a lot and I can't eat them all. So I need to be able to use them efficiently in my cooking. And I don't know what I would do with a lot of yellow paste, but these ones for fresh eating are really good. Giant Crimson. So this Giant Crimson is a little fun looking. It's got some of those heirloom bumps and ridges that we love to see, makes them unique. Not all of the Giant Crimsons I have look like this. Some of them are just nice and round and more normal looking, but this is the one that I had saved for the video, and it is starting to rot a little bit. Got some icky stuff here at the bottom, but the top is still good, so we will taste the Giant Crimson. This was released by M.I. Gardner. He had gotten a hold of some 80-year-old seeds that he was able to germinate and grow them out, and eventually got to the point where he could sell the seeds, and this is the result. So I'm really excited to try this. It's one of those old heirlooms that could have been lost to time, but it was saved, and I'm excited to see how this tomato tastes. This was a bonus plant given to me by my friend Ashley at Rivlow Acres. Check out her YouTube channel, and we're gonna take a bite out of the Giant Crimson. It is a beautiful tomato. Now this is a savory tomato. It's lower on the sweetness scale. It's so not very sweet, but it's got a little bit of sweetness. It's got a lot of that tomato richness. It is very flavorful, and it's got a lot of refreshing qualities to it. I actually enjoy this quite a bit for a nice classic red tomato. This Giant Crimson is really nice for that. Yeah, I definitely can see myself growing this again. Really nice qualities. I'm actually very pleased with this, and the production on the plant has also been really good. About medium-sized fruits. None of them are too big, but I have found as I've been doing more of these taste testing and trying out all these different varieties, the really big tomatoes, while they are very impressive, they start to lose flavor the bigger that they get. I think they become just full of water content and kind of diluted. So I've actually been preferring tomatoes that are more on the medium size rather than like really big ones. And the Giant Crimson haven't been getting super big, so they kind of maintain a lot of that rich tomato flavor and boldness. And I really like this, and definitely I'm gonna recommend you grow this too. I've got tomato on my pants. Pink Bumblebee Cherry. That's still one of my favorite tomatoes. The Pink Bumblebee is sweet, refreshing. I would say it's lower in acid, and it's really a moderate amount of juice. It's just right in the middle, not too much, not too little, so it's very balanced. And all around, I just think it's a really nice tasting cherry tomato. And it's got these really pretty, if you look, you see kind of the red, but there's just yellow streaks throughout, so it's not even like a true pink. It's more like a light pink and orangey color. This is the blue cranberry cherry tomato. When it's ripe, it's this dark purple on top, and then the rest of it is a light yellow. It's also going to be really soft and easy to squish a little bit when it's ready to go. Ah! So right off the bat, the blue cranberry does have a significantly greater amount of liquid inside. It is more on the savory side, and I would describe this to have a little bit of tanginess to it. A savory, tangy, and juicy, the blueberry cream tomato is a nice choice for any home garden. Here we have the Isis candied cherry. So I would describe this Isis candied cherry as being sweet, sugary, and light. I can definitely see why it gets the name candy. It kind of reminds me of like a hard candy almost. And just kind of the way the flavors form on my tongue. It's like a hard candy with a tomatoey aftertaste. I like it. These are just starting to ripen, so I think we'll let this go a couple more days before I pick them next time and try it again. But I enjoyed it. Costoluto Genovese. So the Costoluto Genovese is an Italian heirloom going back to the 19th century. It's a very unique, and I think they're just pretty tomatoes. It's a very classic red tomato, and I just love how they are fluted. See how they have those really interesting ridges here? And it really just makes for a very nice, appealing tomato to look at. Like, you know, put this on your windowsill or your counter. They're just so pretty. So in describing the Costoluto Genovese, I would say that this tomato tastes very rich, savory. It's really not too sweet and very just well-rounded. This would be just a great tomato for fresh eating or cooking down into sauce or pasta. I even almost want to say it's kind of complex. So much flavor in this. I've had lots of normal red tomatoes that just don't really taste like anything, but you bite into something like this, these heirloom tomatoes, and they just ignite your tongue with all of these sensations and tastes, and sometimes I don't even know how to describe some of the way that these things taste because there's just nothing like it. And I almost feel this way with this kind of tomato, so going with the complex, definitely savory, it's just so good. This is my favorite tomato, the Indigo Apple. Such a good taste. The Indigo Apple, it just has a lot of fruity notes to it, but they're really savory. Now I know some tomatoes you have are, they can like kind of feel like they punch you in the face with just a lot of flavor, but this kind of tomato, this is a lot more subtle, but there's just so much fruitiness and just like a deeper undertone that really just makes it taste so good. It kind of reminds me of like grape juice. I mean, these are pretty juicy, not overly so, like it's a good balance of juice, but yeah, kind of reminds me of like a grape juice taste almost. It's got that sweetness, but it's just very deep and complex. The Indigo apples are so good. This is the Ananas Noire, or known as a black pineapple. Now this one does have some damage here and splitting. It is definitely not the most pretty tomato that I've ever grown. And actually, a lot of them that I just picked are pretty damaged. Could be my fault for leaving it on too long. I wasn't quite sure when they'd be ripe. I wasn't really sure what to expect as far as coloring. But they are ripe, they're soft, I can squish them. They're starting to rot a little bit at the bottom, so they're ripe. But these are the Ananas Noire black pineapples, so they have this greenish red coloring here when they're ripe, and they're soft, so we know they're ready to go. Now this one here, it looks pretty ugly, but you can see the bottom here is this like much darker red. kind of like a pink color. So that tells me it's also ripe. So this one here is the best. I'm gonna cut into this one and get that nasty part out. Right, so the inside is pretty. They're green, mostly green with some red. They're very juicy. Let's taste, be the judge. It definitely does not taste like a pineapple. I'm getting like an earthy taste to these. It's not sweet. I kind of have an aftertaste of parsley. And like an herby. Yeah, I would say kind of like an herby aftertaste to this. There's not a lot of flavor upon just biting into it. I'm actually kind of disappointed. But you know, this kind of goes back to me just not really liking green tomatoes. I grew some Berkeley tie-dye last year that was kind of similar in color. It had like this green and pink thing going on. I didn't care for the taste. I've heard where people just love the Ananas Noire. So it could just be me. I tend to gravitate towards the more purple tomatoes, and the green tomatoes, the ones on more of the green end, are just not my thing. Yeah, I don't love it, but I'm gonna stick with my opinion on this being kind of earthy, has an earthy tone to it, like herby, earthy. It's not terrible, but I'm not gonna go out and buy it at the store. This is the Dr. Wyche's yellow tomato. I'm pretty sure this is over a pound. I don't have my scale with me, but look how big this is. Let's cut it. This is really a beautiful tomato. Even if you don't like tomatoes, can you appreciate how pretty this is? Okay, I have a nice meaty slice here. It's so stinking sweet, so fruity. I actually get some hints of like a pineapple taste in this. If you've ever had a ground cherry and that really sweet pineapple-y taste, I get that kind of like as an after taste on these, not on first bite. It's not like super sweet, but kind of like if you let it sit for a moment, you can taste that sweetness underneath. It's so good. It's very light. It's just very bright in taste. A good mix of how much like juice is in these. It's not overly juicy. I'm not like making a mess of myself, but you know, there's enough to just make it feel like just very fruity. Like I feel like I'm eating a melon right now, not a tomato. Dr. Wyche's wins again. Oh, it's so good. I wish there was only more fruit on the plant. I don't know. I mean, it grew a really big tomato, but there's probably like 6 fruits on the plant in total, and that's pretty much how most of them are. I've got 3 plants growing of it, and they're just not like super productive. This is a giant Dr. Wyche's. Oh man, it's so big. Oh. Wow. I took its friend with it. Holy cow. This is definitely over a pound. Maybe a pound and a half. It's so big.